Hi everyone, welcome to class. This is Biology 1110 with Sarah Hill. I'm just going to make some videos for you all that go over the lectures we cover in class. In case you feel like you maybe were in class but missed something or didn't quite get it the first time, or maybe you missed class and so you're just going to watch these videos to make up for what you missed. So chapter 1 is kind of a broad introduction to the whole concept of biology. We're going to cover the themes of biology. We're going to cover some evolution. We're going to cover scientific inquiry, so how we ask and find answers in science. So when we first talk about what biology just means studying life in a scientific way. Biology includes questions like, how does a single cell develop into an organism? All of us started as a single fertilized egg. How did we turn into the adults that we are today? How does a human mind work? How can you think? How can you transfer, thinking or wanting to do something into your body, actually moving and doing something? How do living things interact in communities? How do the bugs on a leaf interact with each other and impact each other? And how do they impact the plants? And how do they impact the dirt? And how do the plants impact the bugs? And how does that impact us? When you think about what it means to be alive, there's really not a simple one-sentence definition. I gave you a nice link to an Amoeba Sisters video about what it means to be alive, how we categorize things as living or not. That is nice to kind of see the scientific thought process behind that. So if you haven't watched that, we did play that in class, but if you didn't watch it, this is a good time to pause and watch that. But life is recognized by what living things do. I think most of you can really figure out your textbook is not alive. The computer that you're looking at right now is not alive. The chair you're sitting in is not alive. You're alive. Maybe you have a dog or a cat beside you. They're alive. The fly flying around the room is alive. The potted plant in the corner or the tree you see out the window, they're all things that are alive. And you kind of know before you even really study in this class, you can figure out what's alive and what's not alive. But what really are the definitions of that? One characteristic of being alive is being able to adapt to the environment. One example of being able to adapt to the environment would be a dandelion. Dandelions evolved in a world where there was wind, and they had their seeds that are moved by the wind due to parachute-like structures. And this bottom picture here. So dandelions that randomly evolved differences that made them have seeds that were better parachutes were able to spread their seeds further, were able to grow in more areas, and became adapted to have the dandelions that we see today. Evolution is a process of change that has transformed life on Earth. Everything living on Earth today is the result of eons, millennia of billions of years of evolution on Earth. When we talk about what a living thing is, some of the characteristics of living things are order. So in this sunflower, it's arranged in an ordered pattern. On your body, you have an order to left and right, front and back, top and bottom. One is evolutionary adaptation, like the dandelion seed that we just saw. One is regulation. Your body is able to regulate the pH of your blood. It's able to regulate the levels of blood sugar you have. It's able to regulate your body temperature. One is reproduction. Living things have babies. Whether you are an animal who has a mama and a daddy that make a baby, or a plant that makes seeds and pollen and makes more plants, or you are a little bacteria or a little amoeba and you divide through something like binary fission or budding, you are going to reproduce. One is a response to the environment. So if you are in a place where it's too hot, you're going to start sweating. If the lights turn on really bright, your pupils are going to contract. And if the lights go down and it gets really dark, your pupils are going to expand. One is growth and development. So just like this giraffe here in the picture, there's a little giraffe that's going to grow up to be a bigger giraffe. This little plant here is going to grow up to be a full-size plant. And the last in this list is energy processing. If you are a plant or an algae or some other species, you might be able to do photosynthesis, which means take energy from the sun and convert it to make sugar. If you're an animal, I'm an animal, you're an animal, we don't do photosynthesis. We don't just stand out in the sun when we need to eat lunch. We have to actually eat something for energy. We take that energy in the food that we eat, and we convert that sugar energy into being able to move, our cells doing work, digesting food, making antibodies, fighting disease, thinking and growing. There are some common themes when we talk about biology. Biology is a huge subject, and we're not even going to touch a lot of it in this class. But the 5 unifying themes of biology are organization, information, energy and matter, interactions, and evolution. And these 5 themes are pretty much what the rest of chapter 1 is going to go through talking about. Just an introduction to these 5 themes of biology. So one is this organization. So if we look at the world as a whole, this is called the biosphere, level 1. And my pointer is not showing up. I'm sorry. The biosphere, number 1 here, this is the Earth as a whole. You can study life at this level as the entire planet. We won't do that in this class, but there are scientists that would. But you can divide the Earth into different ecosystems. So different areas like the Amazon jungle, the Sahara Desert, the polar ice caps, different ecosystems on Earth. This would be, a particular distinct area of the planet. You can divide that down into a community. A community is a more local area. It includes everything that is alive, and it includes everything that is not alive. So in this picture, it has deer, it has trees, it has like moss and grass. There's also dirt and air and breeze and rocks and all the stuff that's not alive. The little babbling brook going through the area, that's all part of the community. Then we can divide it down even more to say populations. Populations is if you took that community and only look at what's alive. So you're not looking at rocks and dirt anymore. You're not looking at the waterfall anymore. You're not looking at the air concentration anymore. You're looking at the living things. You're looking at the trees. You're looking at the bugs crawling around on the ground. You're looking at the bacteria growing, the mushroom on the log. These are all the things that are alive in your population. Then an organism is one particular being. That one particular being. So one tree, one frog, one organism. I think I just said this wrong. A population is one species. And a community is the living things in that area. I think I just told you that wrong. A population is one species when we're looking at populations. Okay, then if we look at our organism, that is one being, one tree, one person, one mold spore. Then you can break that down into organs and organ systems. If you're looking at a multicellular organism, a big organism. So like the organ for this tree would be like its roots or its leaves. For organs and organ systems in a person, you might be looking at the lungs or the respiratory system. You can break that down into tissue. So instead of looking at the respiratory system, now you're looking at lung tissue. Instead of looking at the whole leaf, you're looking at the underside tissue cells of this leaf. The tissues are broken down into cells. Cells are the smallest unit of what is alive. And then cells have organelles. If you are a eukaryotic organism, they have organelles in them. And then organelles can go down to molecules. So we're looking at molecules and organelles. We're not looking at living systems at that point. We're looking at parts of a living system. But cells and larger is where it's considered a living system. When we go through each level of organization, It's not just going to be take what's here at this level, add it together, throw it in a bowl, and you get the next system. You get, as things interact with each other, you get emergent properties. Emergent properties are the arrangement of interactions of parts within a system. So if you think of like hydrogen atoms, hydrogen's a gas, oxygen is a gas, but you put that together, you don't have a gas anymore. You have liquid water. Pure hydrogen and pure oxygen is not going to be something you can drink and feel, comfortable. Not, you would be quite thirsty if that's all you had around you. But they come together and make water. Water is different than the sum of its parts. That's what an emergent property is. You just throw a bunch of organelles into a bowl and mix it around. You're not going to have a functional cell able to go through all the processes of growing and dividing as compared to once it organizes into a cell. That's an emergent property. There's a relationship between structure and function. This is an important concept that we're going to come back and look at pretty regularly through the rest of this semester. If I am trying to get a pair of gloves to keep my hands warm, I need them to have the shape of my hands. A pair of gloves that are shaped like my cat's paws are not going to work as gloves for me. A pair of gloves that are shaped like blue jeans are not going to work as gloves for me. I need gloves that are shaped like my hands so that they can fit on my hands and keep my hands warm. And we see the same thing in biology. The shape of something gives it its function. So this hummingbird is able to use its long beak to get nectar out of the flower because it has that shape. The structure of its beak allows it to reach into there. If its beak had a different structure, it wouldn't be able to have the function of getting nectar from this shaped flower. So structure of an object determines its function. And then when we talk about the basic unit of structure and function, that is the cell. The cell is the lowest level of organization that can perform all the activities required for life. So cell levels and up, things are alive. Smaller than cells, it can do things, parts of things that are life, but it can't do all of the activities required for life. And all cells, no matter what kind of cell it is, all cells are enclosed by a cell membrane, and that cell membrane is able to regulate what is inside the cell and what is outside of the cell. So that cell membrane is the boss of determining what is part of the cell and what is the cell's environment. It allows things in, it allows things out. There are two types of cells, eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic cells. This bigger cell here is a eukaryotic cell. You can see it has a large purple nucleus inside of it. It is a larger cell and it has lots of spots around it. It has organelles around it. So a eukaryotic cell has a membrane-enclosed nucleus, and it has other membrane-enclosed organelles. It's larger and much more defined, much more organized compared to a prokaryotic cell. Prokaryotic cells are much simpler and much smaller. They don't have a nucleus, they don't have organelles, so the DNA, instead of being wrapped up in a nucleus like a eukaryotic cell, the prokaryotic cell has DNA just floating through its cytoplasm. All the jobs that an organelle does are going to be found just occurring in the cell membrane or in the cytoplasm. Within cells, you will find chromosomes. Chromosomes are another word for genetic material. Genetic material is in the form of DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid. So D stands for deoxyribo, N for nucleic, and A for acid. DNA is. Each chromosome is one long DNA molecule that has hundreds of thousands of genes. When we talk about genes, we mean one discrete part of your DNA molecule that gives you one discrete product. So genes encode the information for building the molecules synthesized within the cell. Typically, one gene gives you one molecule. So you might have the gene that gives you the molecule that gives you your eye color. You might have another gene that gives you a molecule that determines how well you form freckles or if you sunburn. Another gene that determines how your fingernails are growing. So you have just distinct little genes. Genes are the units of inheritance. The genes that you have were inherited from your parents, which they inherited from their parents. The genes you have will be passed on to any children that you choose to have. And the importance of genes, the importance of DNA, is that DNA controls the development and maintenance of organisms. Everything your body does, consciously or subconsciously, everything your body looks like, it is all DNA is there giving you that ability to do it. Your ability to grow hair, or for your bone to remodel into the height that you are today. These are all controlled by your genes, by your DNA. Each DNA molecule is made up of 2 long chains arranged in a double helix. You can see this shape here, this kind of like a spiral staircase, and that is called the double helix. If you took that apart, you would see this single strand picture, the picture B on the right. Each chain is made of 4 kinds of chemical building blocks, and these are nicknamed A, G, C, and T. That stands for adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. You do need to know those 4 A, G, C, and T are your building blocks of DNA. And evolution is able to actually work on your genetics over time. So maybe sunlight or a chemical might shine and interact on a piece of your DNA and cause a mutation in a small piece of your DNA. So you have a slightly different gene. You might have a slightly shorter protein, or just a protein that's now able to perform or function differently. And anytime those mutations give you an advantage in able to produce offspring and pass on those traits, then those will be passed on. Genes control protein protection indirectly. So DNA is going to control the production of mRNA, and mRNA is what is going to control the production of proteins. And that protein is what is going to go on and do the work of your cell and of the organism. That process of DNA creating mRNA is called transcription. The process of mRNA creating protein is called translation. And this is a very important concept. This is called the central dogma, that DNA controls the production of mRNA, which controls the production of proteins. And this entire process is known as gene expression. Gene expression is taking a gene on your DNA and expressing it, converting it into information of some cellular product, a protein or some product. A few words to know. An organism's genome is its entire library of genetic instructions. Genomics is a study of sets of proteins in one or more species. Proteomics is a study of whole sets of proteins and their properties. And the entire set of proteins expressed by a given cell or tissue or an organ is called the proteome. Okay, so the next theme is that life requires transfer and transformation of both energy and matter. Being able to take energy from the sun, which is the ultimate source of all energy on our planet, and being able to take that sunlight energy and transform it into other energy from one form or another is what makes life possible. So a plant is able to absorb sunlight, and it performs photosynthesis. And through that photosynthesis, it's able to produce chemical energy. It makes sugar, and sugar has lots of energy in it. So these organisms, plants, and other photosynthetic things are called producers. They take sunlight and they produce sugar. They produce chemical energy. In that process, some of that energy is converted to heat whenever something is converted. Then consumers, things that eat sugar, animals eat the plants. We are consumers. And we take that chemical energy, the sugar in the plant, and we eat it and use it as energy to do the things we need to do. And when we do that, the energy is eventually lost as heat. So energy goes in a straight line through a system. You don't then take the energy of you running a marathon or something, and that doesn't convert back to sunlight. The energy goes in a straight line straight through the system. However, chemicals go through a cycle. So the plants are able to take chemicals from the soil, materials like carbon dioxide in the air, and they take those chemicals, those materials, and convert those into sugar, which make the plant grow. Animals eat it, turn it into the matter, the actual stuff of your body, and let you grow. Eventually, the animal dies and is decomposed by mushrooms or bacteria. Decomposers take the stuff of your body and turn it back into soil. The soil is then used to build the stuff of the plants. So while energy goes through a straight line, chemicals go through a cycle. These interactions between components of the system ensure smooth integration of all the parts. This is whether we're talking about an ecosystem, cycling and interacting, or molecules in a cell. At the ecosystem level, each organism is always continuously interacting with other organisms. And interactions may be beneficial or harmful to one or both of the organisms. So if you have a bacteria that, if you have strep throat bacteria that gets into your throat, starts growing in your throat, that's going to be a harmful interaction to you. It doesn't feel good to have strep throat. But if it is a good bacteria in your intestines helping digest your food, keeping you healthy, that's a beneficial interaction for you. Organisms also interact continuously with physical factors in your environment, with the air, with the soil, with the water. And the environment is constantly affected by the organisms living there. So here we have the sunlight. Leaves are absorbing light energy from the sun. Leaves will fall to the ground and be decomposed by organisms that can return minerals to the soil. Water and minerals in the soil are taken up by the tree through its roots. As a plant is taking in carbon dioxide from the air and releasing oxygen, it is creating oxygen that we're able to breathe. It's also creating sugar and building its own system. And animals are able to eat the leaves and fruit from the tree, which returns nutrients and minerals to the soil in their waste products. Okay, I'm going to pick up with talking about molecules in the second part of this video. So I will see you in a little bit. Bye.